So Ray, welcome to the program. Thanks for being here today. I'm looking forward to talking to you about your two books and also an upcoming book that you're writing, you're about to release. Before we go there, I'm very interested to know what drew your interest as an author to the 9/11 situation, to what happened in 9/11, and also to this very particular piece of that where you focused on the families. What drew you to that particular topic?
So I thank you, Leighton. So I never expected to write a book about this, but there really wasn't much coming out about the family's angle about what they experienced and what they did to try and have an investigation. And I thought surely there'll be some reporter or journalist in America that will write this story. And I would ask people, from time to time, friends and family, uh, even going down to the States, if they heard about the Family Steering Committee. Did they know who Kristen Breitweiser was? Did they know who Patty Casaza was, who lost her husband John in the North Tower? Did they know who Monica Gabrielle was, who lost her husband Richard, and so on? And people were all drawing blanks. And so finally, I decided around 2016 to draft, something. Initially, what I wrote was a very personal story about my own reaction to their reactions. It was all first person. Then I decided, no, this is not a book about me; it's about them. So then I changed the whole format and dug away. And so I interviewed some family members, but mostly what I did was, because many family members don't want to talk to a total stranger about a very personal loss. I was mostly reading articles from a lot of papers in Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and reading watching the live broadcast from C-SPAN of the 9/11 Commission with the testimonies of family members and other people. So that's what led me to write the book, and to also write the book knowing that, from what I can tell from published statements to the press, of the 12 people who were on the Family Steering Committee, the majority voted for President Bush. So this was not a bunch of family members who lost loved ones who were Democrats that had it out for the administration. Patty Casaza said they just wanted to learn whatever the lessons were to learn and to keep the nation safe. And she expected the president she voted for to want to have an investigation.
Hmm. And some of what you learn in the course of writing that book uh, made you question the commission's findings, right? I mean, you found that some of its findings were dubious, and actually, some of the findings of the report actually raised even more disturbing questions. And you talk about this in the book. Without giving the book away, do you want to talk about that a little bit, about what you discovered when you took a really close look at this commission's findings?
Yeah. So you've got the way that the reluctant president and vice president have decide, okay, we'll have a commission. And the first thing they do was appoint Dr. Henry Kissinger to head up the commission.
Oh yes.
So so the family members on the steering committee arranged to have a meeting of Dr. Kissinger's offices on Park Avenue or Madison Avenue. And it's early December of 2002. And they all come in with their winter coats. He turns up the thermometer to like 86 Fahrenheit. And, they're stripping off their coats and sweaters and so on. And, and they want to make sure he's the right person, doesn't have any kind of he's conflict of interest and so on. And at one point, after he's serving them, coffee and here's some little cookies and stuff. Lori Van Auken says, Dr. Kissinger, we just want to make sure you don't have any conflicts of interest, that you don't have any clients by the name of Bin Laden. At that point, as they tell the story, Dr. Kissinger was pouring coffee and kind of, poured it off, onto the coffee table and onto the carpet. He practically falls off the sofa and the next day resigns from the commission.
Mm. Yeah.
So you've got that. Then you have Lee Hamilton, who's ends up being named as the co-chair together with Tom Keene, and Tom Keene happens to be involved in the consortium that's hoping to have a pipeline across Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of political theater going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, this concept of conspiracy theory I believe the term was coined out of the JFK assassination in the early 1960s. And much like that, it seems as though, particularly in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, the 9/11 incident is taking on this sort of same character, developing its own mythology in terms of conspiracy theories. And this came to light recently in an interview that Tucker Carlson did on the Joe Rogan podcast, where he basically said that he thinks that the whole 9/11 incident was orchestrated by George W. Bush. So I'm interested to get your take, given the extent to which you've studied 9/11. Why is it that you think, or do you think that these sort of revived conspiracy theories about 9/11 are happening? In other words, why do you suppose that people like Tucker Carlson are connecting the 9/11 event to other so-called conspiracies and works of the administrative state? Do you have an explanation for that?
And you're right. It's the 1967. I think it's the April 1st, 1967 memo from the CIA talking about how to paint any questions about the official account of the assassination of JFK as a conspiracy theory. And
Hmm.
and the event of 9/11, officially, we've been told that it was a conspiracy with Osama bin Laden and 19 hijackers and maybe a 20th. So
Hmm.
that's a conspiracy theory itself. And so the there are so many. Laurie Van Auken, whose husband Kenneth Van Auken died in the North Tower, says that there are so many myriad oddities. There are so many coincidences of what all seems to happen on the same day that it's hard to believe that all of these things would just coincidentally seem to happen. And I don't answer the question, but I try and represent what the questions are the families have they're left there thinking. I
Hmm.
mean,
Hmm.
so I think that if you have all this kind of people turning away and avoiding asking questions or not looking at documents, uh, at some point. There's a real problem with the story that we're being told. So
Hmm.
yeah, so and the thing is that with the 12 people who were on the family steering committee, I would say three or four are satisfied, having gone through the whole commission, are satisfied that the official account is legit. I'd
Hmm.
say another four or five would be saying that they think that there's a cover up. Maybe people let it happen, or that there's incompetence on a grand scale and heads should roll and people should have been fired. I mean, what happened with everybody who clearly blew it in terms of the FBI headquarters being notified about the 20th hijackers? All the people in all the key positions got promoted.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. For me, one of the things, Ray, that strikes me about 9/11 is that I see 9/11 as, in some ways, presaging what we experienced during COVID-19 in terms of suppression and really vitiation of fundamental freedoms. And it seems to me that in the aftermath of 9/11, we were somewhat conditioned to accept a suppression of fundamental rights and freedoms in the name of safety, in the name of public safety. And of course, these searches I think are quite pointless, and they're still going on. But it seems to me that that was the beginning of sort of conditioning us to agree with government, with the state, to sort of suspend our individual rights and freedoms in the name of safety and security. Would you agree with that take on things, or do you think I'm taking it too far?
no, I think that's correct. I agree with you, and there is a connection between what was happening around that time with what we've been going through recently.
Hmm.
When I write my book, I wanted to be very careful because I knew that there would be the eyes of the people who might be on the family steering committee themselves reading my book and others, and I had to be really fair in my conclusion to leave it open to give people a lot to think about and to say that there should be a new investigation, uh,
Hmm.
cover up, whitewash, uh, conspiracy. I think there's a compelling case to be made that it's very possible that the government was involved, uh, and and that could go in several different directions. And only a proper investigation would show exactly how that is. And I think that the family members that still, many have gone on to other things, but for those that still want some investigation, there's always a caution that they use
Mm-hmm.
in talking about it, because they don't want to come out saying, "I think Dick Cheney did it in the in the drawing room with a candlestick," like to use the old Clue game as a
Mm-hmm.
reference.
Yeah.
They want to be able to say, "We think that this is not, the investigation wasn't done properly. We need a new investigation," but they don't want to point fingers or say this or that person, because they don't want to be seen as having prejudged what a proper investigation would show.